and what do we want to achieve as an organization as well, because we're purpose driven and we want our customers to be really good with money, give them tools that help them do better, to manage their money better, to achieve their outcomes and their goals, and then kind of celebrate that with them.
The New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.
Greetings and welcome along to the New Zealand Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Spain, and today it's great to have James McEniery and Shane Marsh with me from Deal. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. Dosh, good.
Sorry,
good.
From Dosh. Yes. Yeah, well, I should get my companies correct. Did I get your name correct?
You did,
Shane?
yeah, bang on.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Well, maybe we can start with you, James.
Yes.
Just a little intro on where you fit into this big wide world of tech and startups and whatnot in New Zealand.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks for having us today. I guess my Dosh journey has been quite a wonderful ride. Was living up in Singapore a couple of years ago, working for a non-tech, non-banking company. I was in FMCG, working for Lion Breweries up there, running their region, doing all things sociability and beer related.
That sounds like a bit of fun.
It was a lot of fun, buying, selling assets and building craft breweries. It was great. Learned a lot, and was living up in Singapore and was living in the condo there. And my neighbour was Shane Marsh, who we got to know pretty well. Our kids played with each other, and everyone got on very well. And then obviously the pandemic kicked in, and we were up there for a year, and things started to get quite tough in terms of the future. Not sure how long this was going to go on for, and decided to come home. And that in itself was not easy, just given the the state of flights and transit and all that stuff. And I met Shane, one day in the condo pool, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And I told him, "Well, I'm going to miss the culture, the climate, the food. Loved Singapore, loved traveling around Asia." But I said, "Shane, I'm going to really enjoy heading back to New Zealand. It's been 4 or 5 years. And I'm using these digital wallets up in Singapore, name a few, Payla, GrabPay, WeChat. And these applications or apps really just became part of my life. And I loved the ease, and from a customer perspective, the ease of transacting, buying financial services, paying your mates back instantly, getting great deals from merchants. And essentially said, Shane, well, I'm looking forward to, someone's done this. Who's done it? Because I'm gonna jump straight in. And Shane said, "I'm going to stop you there. Go grab a beer." And cannot. That doesn't happen. And being curious, I just said, "Look, well, why not?" And keeps asking, "Well, why? Why are these products not rolling out at pace?" And that's where the seed for Dosh was planted in our living room in Hillcrest Villas, Bukit Singapore.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so what's your background, Shane?
Yeah, so I'd been with one of the major banks for 13 years, specialising in kind of big projects, payments, internet, mobile banking, etc. And got the opportunity to head up to Singapore, and I thought this is fantastic. Very advanced society with global leading tech. In the space that I was focusing in, Fintech, some of the biggest providers were setting up there, and had an opportunity to kind of work quite closely with them. And I suppose, like a lot of people, you sit there in a big corporate and you kind of wonder, gee, I'd like to actually kind of do this type of activity myself and get on the other side of the fence. And that's where, chatting to James, the idea of kind of bringing that amazing tech that we were using daily up there around digital wallets and ease of moving money and getting great specials and all this type of stuff really resonated with me. And I suppose on the other side had a little bit of the know-how in terms of, well, I know how to kind of set this up from a kind of tech compliance banking perspective. And so came home and started Dosh, and we both stepped out of long corporate careers into the world of fintech entrepreneur, which has been a very different ride, and a very different experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Well, definitely looking forward to delving into that a little bit more during the show. Before we get in too far, a big thank you to our show partners, 2 Degrees, Vodafone, Spark, HP, Gorilla Technology, and Deal. So great to have them on board and supporting the show and their broader support for New Zealand's sort of tech and innovation ecosystems, which is great. Well, let's jump in. Now, one thing that caught my attention this week was Air New Zealand and having trackers in your luggage, and I guess messaging coming through from Air New Zealand saying, well, this is prohibited stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but when you travel, it's pretty disruptive if you do end up having a baggage lost or bit of baggage lost or delayed. And look, it doesn't happen that often, but it seemed like a pretty smart approach actually to drop one of these air tags in your baggage and to know where it was sitting. So I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit to get my head around the the safety aspects, and I guess these things are, I don't know, it's a little bit challenging because there is a safety aspect to putting things with batteries onto aeroplanes. So I get that, but we had also had one of the other airlines recently go through a similar thing where they announced, they said, no, you're not going to be able to use AirTags anymore, and there was pushback from a lot of customers, and then they said, oh, okay, well, no, it's on balance, it's probably an okay thing to do. I think it was Lufthansa. So they went through a ban, and then they've flipped. It doesn't seem as though from a legislative perspective and so on that it's an issue. It's just something that Air New Zealand have decided. What how do you guys feel about that one? If I mean, I'm not sure that Air New Zealand's the only airline in the world, but they do seem to be a bit of an outlier, and quite an extreme outlier at this point in time. Now that could change, but it seems like something with a tiny little battery in it is reasonably safe. I mean, I can't think of any scenario one of those little they're like a little coin battery in something has caused an issue, but there have been issues with fires on planes over the years, mostly from I think cigarettes and so on, more so than tiny little batteries. But
well, battery issue aside, I think it sounds like a great concept, right? Like if you could advance a little bit further, you could perhaps get some sort of reporting when your bags dropped, crashed, kicked, etc. But also, I suppose when you actually get out of the plane and it goes to the carousel, there's always that risk that someone can pick up your luggage and walk off with it. Wouldn't it be amazing if you knew exactly where your luggage was at all times? And at the end of the day, it's your asset, it's your equipment, and so perhaps the ability to track that is a right.
Yeah, well, that tracking aspect has been really interesting. I have seen somebody locally in New Zealand tweet a little while ago and saying, look, XYZ disappeared, had a tracker, here's where it's turned up. Can you look up the addresses of your cleaners or whoever's been on the plane? I can't remember exactly, who they felt might have been. I think it was something that was left behind on a plane. In fact, I think it was probably the AirPods. Right, which some of those have the tracking in them nowadays. So they were able to track to where they were. Don't remember seeing an outcome of that. And in another case, I think it was in the US recently. I also saw it on Twitter, where someone had done exactly the same thing. They'd tweeted their airline, here's the address where my valuable bit of luggage has ended up. What are you going to do about it, sort of thing? So there's an aspect where that makes it quite difficult for an airline too, right? Like how do you handle that? And the police don't care, about these things generally. They're too busy with bigger fish to fry. And how often is that going to happen for an airline before it starts becoming challenging, and the sorts of messages that I'm reading are look up who that is, fire that person, and get my stuff back. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
So safety aside, right? Like if it's a safety issue, because I know you can't put small portable batteries in your luggage, right? So that's already a rule, as I understand, right? When you travel, so the small charge. So a smaller battery on a air tag. I'm a big fan of air tags. I use them today. I've got one in my bag here today, only because I'm super sensitive about leaving my laptop bag somewhere.
Yeah.
And walk off and forget.
You should be right. It's
So
leave stuff behind before, and it's not good if you can't remember
and
where it is.
I've taken that on a plane, right? And I've got my AirPods, which can also be tracked. And I think if it's because it's easy to default as safety, which again is critical for an airline, right? Safety, battery cannot. But if it's more about people knowing where their luggage is, because in the current climate, you hear some horror stories about international airports understaffed, and there is constant baggage delays, and also, as I understand it, a lot of baggage that is getting sent to the wrong place because of lack of efficiency in staff in these hubs. You think about the big hubs that people are moving through because there aren't direct flights everywhere anymore, right? So I think tracking's good. If I was Air New Zealand, I'd flip it on its head, and I'd go for every gold elite member, silver member, we're going to give you a tag, and it's an Air New Zealand tag. You chuck it on your golf clubs or your briefcase or your laptop bag, and it's our tag and it's integrated with our app.
Yep.
And it's free because you're loyal. And if you're not a member or a Cora member, well, you can buy one at the subsidised rate. So do a partnership with provider and make it a customer engagement tool.
Yeah.
And again, if the safety aspect, and it might be start with carry on. I don't know if that's even if you want a bag tag. Their carry on, but you never know. Make it a consumer engaging exercise as opposed to blanket nose. And then again, if it's not a core safety issue, I'd like to understand the safety issue a bit deeper. I get e-cigarettes and I get no fireworks and no guns and I get that, no matches and lighters. But I wonder what the suppliers would say about their products in terms of airlines, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot flying around in other parts of the world right now.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Qantas have got their thing called the Q bag tag, which is quite big, and they sent me a couple, I don't know, back in the day when they came out. In the last few years, I can't quite remember when they came out, but they're NFC, near field communications sort of base tags. So there's no battery; they get their power based on the transmission that comes to them and so on. So it seems like quite a good approach if you're going to do something, and maybe that's why they're doing it, because they've got that up their sleeve, and so they're thinking, we want to go down this track, and the only way to make that kind of fly, as it were, today is to get rid of the competing option of the Apple AirTag or whatever other trackers that people might want to use.
Yeah, maybe they'll only verify their own tracker as being authorized on the plane and go out and sell those.
Yeah, well, maybe they charge for them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think what you will get is, and look, if the security services sort of come on board with looking for these things, or they make a big effort, I guess they could find them in your luggage and pull them out and throw them away or whatever, which can be an issue with things today. At $50 to throw, you don't really want to be losing your AirTag. I guess you'd know where it was within the airport, but not quite ideal. But I imagine unless they come down hard on that stuff, people are just going to leave them in there anyway. Yep. In the same way, today, we've had a fair bit of evidence over the years that using a cell phone on an aeroplane doesn't generally cause issues, right? And so, even going back 21 years ago to 9/11, when people were firing up their planes and communicating with family members and so on, and some already had them on. And then, you've got some airlines that actually have in place. They'll have a cell site within the plane. I remember Emirates, you receive text messages and things like that in flight because they've actually got a cell site on board. So I would imagine there's just going to be a few people who take that stuff into your own hands. And I guess that's the problem with newer technology. If an airline or a government sort of puts in place rules that maybe don't add up, if you can't convince people of why they're in place, then people tend to go their own way, don't they? So
They find a way.
All right, well, it'll be an interesting one to see how it plays out. Other bits and pieces, Twitter's back in the news, so we'll have a little bit of a chat about them shortly. I see California is legalizing digital license plates for vehicles. I'm sort of struggling to get my head around this one. Why would you need a digital license plate? Unless you're maybe, I don't know, selling personalised plates and you're wanting it to, the license plate to change on a regular basis. It seems like in California there is an aspect to it because they're using e-ink, so it's similar to a sort of Kindle reader and so on. Doesn't need a lot of power to to display. But it does seem in California there's a bit of a tie-up with your registration. And I guess if these things are sort of showing up on your license plate, that's where the opportunity is, that you don't actually have to keep, changing that over. If we think in New Zealand of our little, registration stickers that we have to do. And, I got one recently. It was like, oh, it's in the mail, but actually it was over. So if I drive without it, that's a problem. Yep. So someone went to the post office and, I don't know, paid the extra $5 or $10 for another printout. And so that could go in. And so I guess that's probably the aspect where that actually it'd be helpful.
And there's probably an aspect around law enforcement as well, I'd imagine. There's each state has their own number plate references, and numbers and dynamic, but also, what is the in that specific state, how is law enforcement technology maybe increasing to a point where there's some benefit that they're seeing in having a digital license plate. I can't think of many off the top of my head right now, even before, but
some people just want to have it because it's the cutting edge.
Well, that's right. If you've got a very expensive car, and maybe it's a showpiece, right? It's pretty cool rocking up, and I imagine you can ensure that you have what you want in terms of a personalised number plate, digital. Pretty cool, as long as you can't turn it off, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be quite interesting if you could change it on the fly.
Yeah, well,
pay a little bit
extra.
extra.
I was actually looking at personalised plates a few months ago, and the options are fairly limited. So you could have it in a blue, maybe some other basic colours, and that's the colour of the numbers and the letters plus the surround sounds, right? But if you are, you loved cars and you wanted to have a license plate that matched the colour of your car, right down to the 10th degree, or perhaps you're changing it each day based on your kind of mood for the day. I suppose it brings a sense of creativity to what's otherwise fairly dull part of the presentation of your beloved vehicle. So is this actually a way of adding a little bit of creativity and personalisation around those plates? That was, when you mentioned it, that was my first kind of take on it. That this is actually some sort of an artistic, opportunity rather than, digitally updating your license registration details. But I'd be keen to understand what the key driver is for the change, and maybe it'll catch on.
Yeah, I guess there's all sorts of opportunities, isn't it, when you sort of step back a little bit as to, I don't know, those with road rage, rather than losing it and yelling and using various gestures from their vehicle. There could be an e-ink element on their vehicle, whether it's on their license. You'd need to be probably license plate a bit small for sending those sort of messages, but you have a e-ink banner across the back of your vehicle or something, and You could
getting
use
into
your
advertising
voice
space now,
to
aren't
set
you?
that advertising. There's all sorts of possibilities. So, yeah, maybe we're just seeing the very beginning of e-incom vehicles, and how it plays out might be much more interesting. But I guess you walk around supermarkets and stores these days.
right.
The e-ink is very useful in those cases where the information needs to change regularly. So yeah, I guess we'll watch and see how it plays out. But you do, you mentioned the messages that you sometimes put surrounding. So yeah, I guess that would be an immediate sort of thing. You have your personalised bit in the middle and so on. There's some possibilities there.
Yeah.
Now, Mondelez. This is interesting. Mondelez had there were a bunch of companies that were impacted on cybersecurity incidents. Mondelez, who chocolate. Ritz crackers, whole bunch of products, but they had a lawsuit with their insurance company over 2017 NotPetya cybersecurity incident, and this thing has gone on for years. They apparently had $100 million cleanup bill for the cyber incident, and the interesting aspect was that they had this insurance cover, but when it got down to the fine print in the insurance, there was a little bit of a get out of jail card for the insurer to a degree, and this is why it was going through the courts. It was a debate over whether this incident constituted an act of war, basically, and the insurer had in there, look, if this is an act of war, then it's not on us. And so I don't know how you necessarily can draw that line and come to a clear conclusion, but they have come to a conclusion. We don't know, we don't know what the settlement is, but it raises sort of some of the challenges around cyber insurance, because the costs for cyber insurance keep going up and up and up, and we see much bigger incident these days from cyber security incidents than what we were seeing sort of 5 years ago. It used to be someone would get in there, they'd encrypt your data, and if you had a good backup and system, you could recover quickly. You'd be back up and and away you go. Or if it took a little bit longer, you still had an option without paying out a lot of cash to the perpetrators. But of course, that picture keeps changing. So yeah, it's in a way it's quite worrying to know the insurance companies have got these little get out of jail cards in their fine print.
Have you bought insurance recently?
Constantly paying for insurance.
Yeah, have you read the T's and C's down to the all the policy down to the finite?
That's a very good question,
because that's because we've had to do that recently with startup business. We need to get cover for all types of insurance as a financial service provider, and you're right. It's there's a lot of people out there willing to give you cover, but it comes down to, in my experience, it comes down to the specific detail of the claim, right? And that's where advice is great. You get the right people to give you the right advice based on your channel. Now, in terms of these guys, there's cyber crime, and there's getting your data locked and then paying a ransom to release that. But there's also on the supply side, they have the ability to shut down supply and production, and I've been through that with a large supply business where we knew we had the stock in the warehouse, and we knew where it was. We couldn't pick it or put it on a truck and deliver it, and it just happened to be Christmas, right? So quite key.
Yeah.
So not only is there's a cost to getting your data back, and maybe you can't do some things in your tech stack, but there's a cost of business, and maybe when you tally up the cost of business, I couldn't supply crackers to supermarkets for a key period of time because of this issue. There's the bill, please.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, sir. Well, you covered for this. You paid the ransom, or we helped you get your data back.
Yeah. Sorry
But the
about
factory was closed. We couldn't.
3
and-
weeks that
yeah,
you
we couldn't
couldn't
pay your
operate
staff
your
because
factory
payroll
and
was down.
do all those other things.
Yeah, so
and of course we've got the data
Integrity
privacy
piece, yeah.
sort of side of it as well
Correct.
now, which is the big leverage, leaking of data.
and I imagine there's businesses out there and corporates out there who have had the cover that was suitable at the time of their business when the cover was taken, and these 4 or 5 year policies roll through, and businesses change, and the environment changes, and they might have implemented a new tech system, or integrated into another piece of new technology that exposes them, and they haven't really, because that covers in that filing cabinet, and we're good. So there'll be some worried decision makers in that business, especially in the finance team, I think, or the risk team.
Yeah. Oh,
Chasing a lot of money.
reading fine print. What do you think about that, Shane? Is that your favourite thing to do?
He loves it.
Yeah,
Is
look,
that's in your court.
As we went through setting up the insurances for Dosh, and we bring in advice and direction, etc. But ultimately, we need to kind of read and understand the fine print ourselves, and that's a super boring job. It's a tough read, and even when you've gone through it, you might get a sense that you kind of understand it, that you're covered, etc. But if you've got a cynical insurer that wants to get out of the clause, there'll be enough clauses in there that they can kind of lean upon if they really want to get out of it, right? Picking the act of war one tells me that they must have been really desperate, because I think we would all assume that when you're looking at kind of clauses around act of war, it is literally war, and there are wars happening in the world today. So, look, it's one of those scenarios where something bad's happened, someone's going to wear the liability for that, and then ultimately where's that going to fall? You get insurance because ultimately that's the cover you're looking for. So, I mean, I must admit, if that was us, you'd be pretty disappointed in that type of response from your insurer.
Yeah, and look, the way that cybersecurity, is today, and I saw there was a bit of an announcement from Minister Clark the other day, who had been, I think he was in Singapore,
The Fintech Festival.
yeah, and was talking about cybersecurity and how this is now we're kind of under attack at sort of warlike type language, which I found quite interesting. But with that thinking and the fact that it is often nation states that are looking to take advantage of us, then you can see how that clause might be in some cases sort of considered appropriate. But also, if that's a reality, then an insurer needs to be super clear about that limitation when it's potentially the likes of North Korea. That's how they earn their the US dollars or their Bitcoin or whatever. It's going to be through those channels. So I think we need transparency there from the insurance sector. So another thing that I came across, a company, I think we've spoken about them before on NZ Tech Podcast, a company called Wing, who announced doing some drone deliveries in the past in Australia, and there's been a bit of media coverage in the last few weeks about them partnering with Coles, big supermarket chain, and that they're expanding some of this delivery via their drones, and they're winged drones that go up and down and so on, but they've got that efficiency of having a wing, and it looks really interesting. I think they have done a pilot program in Canberra. They did over 5,000 deliveries there, and now they're onto Queensland. So it seems like kind of quite a good idea. There are those times where you're like, need to get X, Y, Z, and the hassle of going out to get stuff when you're busy, but the Ubers of this world and so on don't generally have too much of an offering around kind of groceries. I think usually there's some dairy or service station that'll be able to get you milk or something through Uber Eats, but it's very, very expensive to have it kind of hand delivered. So the idea of maybe being able to get a few essential items that are carried by a drone could be pretty good. Probably one of the challenges we would have here in New Zealand is that the current legislation, in most cases, unless you've got any sort of special permission, isn't going to allow these things to happen because they've got to have kind of line of sight and they've got to see the drone and everything happening at the same time. And of course, we did have that drone delivery back with Simon. I think Simon Bridges was probably Minister of Transport or whatever it was at that point a few years ago with Domino's, which was sort of a typical sort of marketing stunt. This seems a little bit more near to reality when they're talking about doing thousands and thousands of deliveries, which is sort of what we hear starting to happen in the US. So you think we're going to have drone deliveries soon? Is that something you jump into Dosh, make your quick payment, and
get a nice cold bottle of milk delivered? Look, Canberra makes sense. Testing it in Canberra. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Canberra. It's flat and it's smallish, and there's a lot of space. There's not a built-up CBD per se. Like, there's not a lot of people living in a small CBD with lots of high buildings. And it's spread out. So it's sort of similar to Auckland to a degree. It's vast and wide. And would we see it in Auckland? Yeah, I'm going to say not soon for a number of reasons. And that's your point around
maybe Timaru.
Yeah, not Auckland, but definitely
area.
I reckon there's areas in New Zealand that could benefit from it. You're going to have a customer that's willing to pay. So I'm assuming around a delivery charge, a surcharge of type, and a limited basket of goods that you can put in a drone, right? Because there's weight and there's factors, right? So a packet of crisps and some onion dip, probably. There's some eggs and a six-pack of Steiny, maybe not, right? So, I mean, the technology is moving so fast in terms of the capability of these drones, right? Even in terms of speed, power, battery life, all that.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
It's come a long way, and even controlling, right? You don't just need a little joystick anymore in your backyard. So I'd never say never, but I can't see it being in Auckland anytime soon. I think we've got some other challenges, like let's get the trains working and the buses working, and maybe that's a priority for our new mayor. But down the line, possibly. It is novel. It's novel. Queenstown, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna stand up for the small businesses of New Zealand, because for those kind of small purchases that you don't want to go to the supermarket for because it's not worth the extra trip, where do you go today? You go to the corner dairy or the Foursquare or maybe even the shop
convenience store.
The convenience store. And that's the basis of their business. You pay a little bit more, but it's closer and convenient. You can stop in on the way past, get those couple of things, not the full range of a supermarket. And how many of those type of stores are in New Zealand today, and how many people do they employ and keep families fed? So
it's actually a really big business. I was speaking at a conference for one of the entities that has all these little stores, and it was pretty interesting to hear the numbers.
Yeah. So do we want to move all of that business to the big supermarkets, who I think do pretty well today? Or
you said Coles, didn't you? Coles.
Yeah.
So Coles, the big one versus Woolworths, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Because Woolworths, you may have already talked about this on the show, have recently launched their first QR code payment network, which enables the customer to download an app, scan a QR code at the point of checkout, pay goods, but also use that product in other merchants around Australia.
Yeah.
So clearly, technology is a strategy that the big chains and industry, or in this example, grocery, are looking at.
Yeah,
everything from in-store all the way to delivery.
Yeah, well, I guess there's different possibilities in terms of if it was, depending on how the drones work, that they would be available maybe to your little gas stations and corner dairies and so on, to be able to tap into a drone network, and in the same way people tap into sort of Uber Eats type models today. So we'll have to see how it plays out. I think there's definitely there are some downsides to these big global entities doing some of these things. Now, a couple of other stories. European Union maybe banning 8K TVs. I thought this was quite fascinating. Why they're banning technology, and it seems to be that to sort of, I guess, avoid power being used where it's not appropriate. TVs are going to have a certification, and at the moment, it looks like none of the 8K TVs available are going to be able to get through that certification, even some of the 4K TVs, because they're not very efficient on a power front. So I think this is going to be an ongoing story, and it's probably extra pertinent at the moment with the power issues that energy issues that exist in Europe, while Russia and Ukraine are at war. So I think that one's going to be
because if you think of a standard household, TV's a core item, and the technology's moving so fast that they are getting to these large devices that are HK that are always on, right? Connected to the internet, Wi-Fi, the digital now, and then the resolution is driving energy or consuming energy. And, you think about the last 10 years, even in New Zealand, about how many devices we're charging at night, right? This is not a new topic. It's been around a long time. But it'd be great to see. It'd be interesting to see the stats on consumption of electricity in New Zealand per household over the last, call it 15, 20 years as devices have come into our household, and multiple devices, right? And then we've got cars. We've got these, bigger, larger fridges, bigger TVs. Right?
Yeah, there's an opportunity though, isn't there, for technology to help us actually be efficient with our energy usage. Yep. And I think we probably all vary a bit on that front as to how well we're doing it. The other day, I've got around to setting up some automations around my air conditioning at home, right, for the heat pump. It was like, why does it need to be on during these hours, and unless it's really hot and humid once I'm at this time of year, once I'm off to sleep and so on, I'm not quite so bothered about whether the air conditioning's running, as long as it's not so bad that I wake up. Then turn it off, and when there's nobody in the house and so on. So
you can certainly see in the EU at the moment with it's a very sensitive topic in energy availability and of course price as well, that a move to try and minimise lacking usage or usage that's not required or optional is definitely perhaps something that's politically focused as well, and that they want to make sure that it would seem a little bit unfair if there was a household that couldn't afford electricity or couldn't access the basics they required when the house next door was running their 8K TV, watching on the big screen. So, yeah, I'm sure that's playing into some of the thinking.
Yeah, there's definitely some balance needed. And before we sort of, I guess, jump into Dosh, it'd be remiss not to at least touch on the Twitter situation. It's been nuts the last few days. I think I've been on all the TV stations and all the major radio stations sort of talking about this. Everyone seems really interested in it. I don't know. I'm not sure that it's actually that exciting. Like, we've got Musk. We know Elon is a crazy, unpredictable character who's very, very capable when it comes to innovation and technology development. It really is kind of anyone's guess to a degree as to what will come out. He's not owned a social media company before, but most of his other things that he's done, he's managed to make them do well over time. Right now, he's, for better or for worse, he's getting all sorts of publicity. And what do they say? There's no such thing as bad publicity, or however it goes. So apparently where we see sort of people jumping off to alternative platforms on one direction, on the other side, what I was hearing this morning was that they're in their best growth time ever.
Sure.
Because there's this constant publicity, and so it's all about Twitter, and they do have higher usage traditionally in New Zealand than probably a global average. I think there's about one in 9 people on Twitter globally, about 1 in 20. So they were never massively sort of dominant to the level that Facebook and TikTok and Instagram have been. But if that actually drives up that interest, then maybe that achieves what he was hoping for in terms of being able to help on the business side. And certainly the layoffs, when you look at it, it's shocking to lay off half the entire workforce at Twitter. But ultimately, as a business, they actually need to be profitable, and you would kind of imagine that's going to go a long way to actually turning the business around if there's enough people to actually do what's required. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's you got to, I suppose, wonder whether it's a deal he wanted to do in the end anyway, but off he went and completed it. He's not mucking around, that's for sure. I mean, I think the general corporate approach would be to bring in the consultants. They charge a lot of money. You do a few months review. You implement the changes. You generally chop off the bottom 10, maybe 20%, and you've kind of reset the baseline to move forward. I do wonder, an organisation where you take out 50% of the staff is based on assumption that 50% of the people aren't needed to run the company, and being a month or two in from, I suppose, being able to do the due diligence on that, it seems like quite a big cut to make through. So, and I suppose those people get up and walk out the door. So can it continue to be run the way in which it should? They'll find out over the next couple of months. But pretty. I know the cultures around kind of hiring and firing are different offshore than they are here in New Zealand. But pretty tough for when half the workforce finds out whether they got a job or not, and to an organisation that they probably love to work for. So really interesting times, and we'll see. Watch the space. And one thing you can guarantee, whatever happens, it'll be in the media because it's getting reported a lot.
Yeah, it's there's an extreme level of transparency, isn't there, now around these big firms, and the latest stuff that's being reported, and sometimes there's not, you don't know what's backing it up, but is it they're trying to bring back some of those people already when they've realised, like, hold on, we just laid off the person that's the expert at XYZ, and we're going to be stuck tomorrow if we don't have them on board. So I guess when you lay people off only about a week in, then you've got to expect that that's not going to go smoothly, and it's a little bit hard to get. It's hugely hard to get my head around anyway. The idea that you could do that at that sort of pace, but partly that's the world of startups, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah, I mean, but world of startups versus a very large global media company. My only build on your comments, Shane, was traditionally you've seen the owners of media companies. They're always, my generation being very colourful characters who have a strong view on a particular left or right of the field, and they push it pretty hard. They've got a lot of influence, and when they want something, they go for it. And once they've got it, they tend not to stop running with it, right? So for me, it's actually, it's entertaining to watch from a sort of looking in from New Zealand and a fly on a wall perspective. What's next? What's the next play, right? Because he's laid off a large part of his workforce. He's generated a lot of media interest, content, you name it. He's doing it. Yeah. But what's next? Because I think my gut tells me he's got a plan. Yeah, let's see. And it's moving at pace. And so you answer your question here, you got to move fast. Start up our business. That's all we do. We move fast. Reference, someone asked me, how's Dosh going? And I reference a speed train in Tokyo. It's moving very fast. And we're going to repaint the train. And we're going to add carriages to the train. And while we're moving, doing all that, we're going to give our customers a great experience who are on the train. But it doesn't stop. And maybe he's doing a bit of that as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating times, and we'll probably have a completely different story within a couple of weeks, right? And that's part of that pace and that transparency. So let's move on to onto Dosh. Keen to hear a little bit about, we've heard a little bit about the background and so on. When did you turn the lights on, and what's the current state of play with things?
Yeah, sure. So we launched Dosh, which is New Zealand's first digital wallet in October last year. And a key kind of point of differentiation coming to the market was that you can actually move money between your friends really easily. So you don't have to swap bank account numbers anymore, and that money moves instantly 24/7 rather than what you see with moving money through the banks today, which is delayed and the money doesn't move in the weekend. And we've been really pleased with the response from New Zealand, which is interested in new tech for New Zealand, but actually it's kind of old tech offshore, right? All we've done is brought something that's been really successful offshore to New Zealand, and really starting to see people use it for paying for rent and paying for their friends and after social occasions, etc. And then our big kind of release in the last few weeks has been adding a Dosh Visa debit card to that wallet. So now actually you can do so much more with the money in that wallet. You can pay for meals at restaurants, and with a single click split that cost out to your friends and get paid back, then use that money at the next after the bar, after the restaurant, if you go for an after drink. So for us, it's really about looking at what is the best experiences that we see in financial services around the world and that we experience in Singapore, and bring them to New Zealand, because why shouldn't New Zealand be up with where the rest of the world is in this space? Today, it's very traditional in terms of banks, and that's the way it's always been done. But there's a lot of early adopters and technology enthusiasts and people who socialise, move money a lot, that want actually a different experience than what they've had historically.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to have the simplicity, but our banks here seem a bit sort of backwards to some parts of the world. I mean, the US is kind of is a bit of a complex and backwards beast that I guess is. I don't know. There are other countries, like the US, but I mean they're still writing checks and so on, right? But what to your point, Shane, around banks and payments not going through on weekends and so on. It seems kind of nuts that doesn't work today unless you're with the same bank. It seems like it would be reasonably easy for them to sort of turn on that functionality, but it's just not there. So,
well, that's it's actually an industry issue. So, in 56 other countries around the world, just about every country in the OECD has invested as an industry in delivering a real-time payments network that enables the banks to move the money between themselves in real time. And New Zealand hasn't done that. So it used to be just overnight, Monday to Friday. Now they moved it to a few times during the day, Monday to Friday, and that change was significant, right? And so the reality is that from a industry perspective, before you even get to the individual banks, it's a long way behind where the rest of the world is, and that means that some of the services that hang off that infrastructure, don't exist here. The most feedback we get is really from people who've lived overseas and come back and said, wow, it's so great that you guys have launched this in New Zealand, because I really miss my Venmo or my Grab Pay or my Revolut that I use in the US, Asia or the UK, because once you're used to that experience, it's very difficult to go back to, can I please have your bank account number because I want to pay and the money will arrive soon, but let me know when it arrives, in those type of conversations.
I'll tell you the moment in Singapore I got hooked and thought, this is really cool. A late adopter, right? So a late adopter to this technology, didn't even know I had it. My DBS sort of, banking app. During the pandemic, one of you in your household could leave the house to get food or go to the doctor. That's what you could do, right? We were in lockdown from February, Chinese New Year, through to about July. So it's pretty tough. So I used to walk down the road with my mask on, go to a cafe, order a flat white, and it was the most expensive coffee because it's fresh milk, right? So that'll be $8.50, sir. I would then
not too many cattle.
Grazing around Singapore.
Running around Singapore.
Because it's all imported milk, right, from Aussie, fresh milk. I would scan the QR code. The payment would go, and I'd receive the loyalty. It might be a 10 for 1, or it might be a free, scone or something, whatever the deal of the day was at this cafe. Then when I was waiting for my coffee, it said, Mr. Jim, you've just spent $8.50 on a coffee at Baker and Cook. Round it up to $9 and we'll put 50 cents in, we'll buy you a Google share. I was just like, I'm not an investor, this seems pretty cool. For the next 90 days, I just said yes every day. Yes. I rounded up, paid 50 cents more. That went into a Google share. I got sent a very cool non-banking statement with really cool UX saying, here's your one Google share over after 90 days. And, and that was provided by Standard Chartered or someone in the back end. But,
Yeah.
And it was cool. I felt good about that. I got loyalty, I could pay goods, and I could pay my friends, but also it gave me access to financial products that I never would have normally thought about. Okay, come back home, you got Sharesies doing a great job, and other providers like that. You can move money and give you access to early learning around investment, which was cool. And the other one was we're boarding a plane to go on a family holiday, and my wife turned to me and said, "You've got your travel insurance, haven't you?" I said, yes, of course I have. I opened up the app, and I went, Bali, 5 days, 4 people, $24 done, sent. Yep, got travel insurance, no problem. And again, access on the go, on the fly.
Yep.
A very cool transition. I didn't have to fill out a form. So yeah, that was my early experience into this world of fintech. And when Shane said it doesn't happen back in NZ the way we're used to it, then it was a big question mark around, well, why not?
So now that you're operating, you've got the debit card piece that's just come. That's the new bit in the last few weeks.
Yep.
There must be a lot more sort of opportunities, right? Whether it's Patch, Sharesies, all sorts of partnerships and things. So how important do you think those extra pieces are to building out Dosh to be sort of a platform that everyone's going to want to use? Because there's that journey, isn't there, from when you exist, but not everyone's on the platform. Ultimately, you want to be in that position where you want everyone in New Zealand to be using the platform, and then everyone gets the best advantage as well, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what do you do at the moment if I don't know, let's go out for a meal, I pay for it on my card, then I want to split it with somebody and they're not on the platform? How much of a hassle is that to make that work at the moment?
Yeah, well, today we've made it really seamless because you can actually split the cost of the amongst people who've got Dosh, people who haven't got Dosh. Who haven't got Dosh will get an SMS. They'll download the app, sign in, and that request will be sitting there waiting for them. Now, because they've signed in, they can use their friend's referral code and actually send the person who sent the request will get $5. So yeah, if you're really clever, you could be asking for lots of amounts from people and getting $5 every time. Actually, you end up
smart.
there's a few smart people who are figuring that out. They can
Yeah.
get paid earn more money than they're actually getting paid back for at the same time.
That's cool.
But in terms of your question around usage, and for us, we talk about in terms of building the whys. So why do you use Dosh? Well, it was started with because it's really easy to move money between me and my friends. Now it's okay. Well, now it's really great because I can use that money anywhere at any time, 24/7, and I can access today. We've got a 5% off cashback on Countdown, so actually I can buy my groceries using Dosh.
Do you have that, or is that a hypothetical one?
No, we have that today.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Online.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the cost of living's gone up. We thought it would help Kiwis and
That's
give them
brilliant.
5% back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Countdown online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't use your Dosh card though.
let's
Can't use your Amex.
Oh, so my Dosh card's still in the mail, right?
Yep.
So I'm waiting for it to come.
Yeah, we'll make sure the deal will extend so that when it arrives, you can jump in. But I'm a family of 5, so my Countdown online bill's huge. So I'm saving myself about $20 every week in cashback through using Dosh. But it's about adding those reasons why, and for us, it's what do our customers want next, and what do we want to achieve as an organisation as well, because we're purpose driven and we want our customers to be really good with money, give them tools that help them do better, to manage their money better, to achieve their outcomes and their goals, and then kind of celebrate that with them. So for us, we are always looking at what's the next best thing, and as James mentioned before, we move super fast to get that built up and get it out to our customers. Now, I came from a very different environment within a large bank where it's impossible to move that fast for a whole lot of really good reasons. And that's our advantage. Our advantage is, new, agile, and able to move with speed.
And in terms of what next, like you mentioned, potential partnerships and bringing other products in. So our roadmap's pretty rich in terms of the priorities of next step, and it's all about we talk a lot to our customers. In fact, our customers tell us a lot, and in these early stages daily.
That's great.
They can do a live chat on the app with us and give us feedback and attach photos, whatever they want to do. They can give us ideas. So the real engaged users are telling us daily on love this, tweak that. Have you thought about? We get a lot of have you thought about in a constructive way, predominantly. And so I wear the customer's hat and Shane wears the product and compliance. So we have some really great, robust conversations. I'm like, Shane, I had that experience in Singapore when I invested that 50 cents. I want to do roundups in investment tomorrow. And he goes, well, James, the product team's pretty busy and we've got to work through a compliance plan and da-da-da-da. I'm like, no, I want to do, so it's a really nice balance, the way we work together and the team works together, while we have, to deliver those next product goals, I suppose. And, a big strategic key for us is partnerships. So we're working on a couple of key partnerships out there that in the new year will help, or the partners will be able to use Dosh to help their customers from a payment perspective. So it's leveraging those partnerships to sort of, someone wants a great way to for their customers to pay people because they're delivering a service that needs that, right? And there's a lot of use cases, and there's community use cases. So getting money to people in need instantly, can't do that today on a Saturday night. Someone needs help. You need to give someone a emergency benefit or emergency grant because they're injured or they need food. That will turn up on Monday or Tuesday, but they need it now. They need to buy the food or get the medicine. So these conversations having around how we can help some of those communities and groups move the money a bit easier from that side. And we want to do that because it's good for New Zealand and it's good for Kiwis. And then on the partnership side, I'm really excited about 2023 in terms of our ability to bring more.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I always like to encourage, folks to putting on my, futurist hat. We should all be sort of experimenting with whatever is the newest technology, if there's no detriment to doing so. So, I do encourage people to, let's have a look. This is something that will over time evolve and become useful. Also, good to be supporting our local Kiwi startups. There'll be big international players, I'm sure, at some point crossing more into the New Zealand market. But I see, and it did literally took me, I think, less than 2 minutes while we were chatting earlier to sign up. I put across $50 during, I guess we were during business hours, so it didn't take too long. I see that's already come across into the app, so I can start spending and I can see deals at NZ Sale, Vans, shoes, pick in there, North Face, 5% cashback, Countdown one that you mentioned, and a few more in my food bag. So that's really cool. Well, if anyone wants to try it and you want to help me out, I'll put my link in the show notes for the podcast. But certainly don't feel like you have to. But if you want to, then it'll cost these guys $5. So no, it's really interesting. I'm very interested to follow where things go next. When was it that you officially kind of launched? How long's that been now?
Oh, it's literally October 14th last year.
Yeah, so we're just over a year.
Yeah,
so
we haven't actually stopped. We were talking the other day. We move so fast, we don't stop to reflect the milestones, right? Because we are, while in New Zealand we're a small team, the global team's larger, obviously. We are looking forward to, having a little birthday celebration, and might see some good opportunities in the app, some good deals pop up soon around that. And it's been, the last year has been a great learning curve for not only just the business, but I mean, can't speak for Shane, but for me personally, in terms of taking that leap of faith from the corporate life, believing in the vision and the hypothesis that, hey, perhaps we could do something a little bit different in New Zealand. And 1 year in, we're feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah. And so what is that sort of tie-in between international and global, and what's the New Zealand piece versus the rest of the world and so on?
Yeah, so we're a New Zealand owned and operated company, and going deep in New Zealand for the benefits of New Zealand. And then in terms of our business, it's really a mixed bag of some capability which is very New Zealand specific onshore that we utilise, and then where we need services that perhaps are not available here, we'll look out in the global market to source them and find the best providers and kind of ultimately deliver into the New Zealand marketplace. So it's about getting that balance between, delivering into New Zealand, the world's best solutions while also making it very Kiwi, right? So that we try and get that balance right. But ultimately, for us, we're two Kiwi lads who've, taken a bit of a punt and tried to set up something we think will be beneficial for Kiwis here because we've seen it working offshore.
Yep.
And we love kind of working with the customers here who give us lots of ideas and feedback, and got lots of enthusiasts, which is great. And it's awesome to see people chipping in ideas, and a lot of those ideas are what's actually shaping our roadmap. So encourage people who to get involved and give us your thoughts, and ultimately collectively we can shape what some of this tech looks like in the coming years.
Just on that, we have a support group called the Dosh Pit, and we welcome any new Dosh Pit members to come in and join the Dosh Pit, and that is where we bounce ideas. Shane leads that. We talk about new UX, get feedback on design, get feedback on functionality. We're really lucky. We've got a lot of supporters in the Dosh Pit. Shane named it the Dosh Pit. I didn't name it the Dosh Pit, but I love it.
It actually got vetoed, but one of the benefits of having your own business is that you can actually just go run with it anyway. So there's obviously a play on the mosh pit, but it's got lots of energetic members. So therefore,
So if you want to join, send Shane an email, and we'll put you on the list for some testing. I think if your question was about growth outside of New Zealand.
I'm kind of curious how it all fits together and what those opportunities are.
Yeah, we're going to definitely go deep in New Zealand first. So we have a peer-to-peer product, and we're also working on, a business product in the background as well that can help businesses transact. And
I saw in the App Store, Dosh Business.
Dosh for Business, yeah. So that's sitting a little bit. It's not in focus today because we're just going to round out the peer-to-peer proposition and we'll continue to evolve and build the business product in the background with some inputs from some pretty large, retailers and New Zealand businesses. So that's on its own strategy. But then we believe that from a Pacific point of view, if you look around New Zealand, we're surrounded by Pacific Islands. We've all been to them. Yeah. Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands. And a lot of these other countries aren't particularly well banked, right? They might have one retail player in the city, but they are very there's high mobile phone engagement, right? Definitely. So there's a lot of people in the Pacific Islands, and they travel. They come to New Zealand, and they love moving money, right? So we want to go deep in New Zealand. Then we also want to have a Pacific footprint to help those who particularly aren't maybe banked well, or they're in a certain area of the Pacific where they need help with some of the products that we'll be launching in the future, get into those markets, and also through a partnership model as well, right? Yeah, that's on the radar.
That makes sense. Now, some people are going to be like me. They open this thing up and go, hold on, this is a year old, but when I go into the App Store, it says the age of the app is 4+ years old. When I go through the version history, I can only see it going back a year.
Yeah, so that's
Did you acquire something?
No, the 4+ is the age that Apple gives you. What age can use it?
Of course. Yeah. I was thinking that was the age of
you're allowed to download
how old the app was. No. I don't know why I thought that.
It's fascinating. Apple's incredibly stringent, more so than Google in terms of going through the App Store and launching an app. And interestingly, they ask you questions about your app, and that sets the age limit. And the age limit came out at 4+, and we were like, oh, hang on, that's not right. We need it to be 18+. Yeah. And the feedback was, well, unless your app has got violence and adult themes in it, it's not going to be 18+. So it's remarkable, and there's absolutely no flexibility around that. So one of the few things that's not flexible.
And do you get is it different in the
Play Store? I think it's similar top of mind.
Okay.
The other interesting learning that we experienced working with Apple, if you go launch an app and they'll say, what device will it go on? And because you're really keen and enthusiastic at the time, and you're punching for the big result, you tick all of them. iPads.
Yeah.
And then you launch your product, go, actually, it's not going to be using an iPad. You cannot untick iPads. So for every release, you have to do a product release with an iPad, and the UX has to be done for the iPad. So that was a big learning, and some people probably laughing out there going, come on, guys, lift your game. But we did not know you couldn't untick what devices your app would be on. So
so you actually made that decision at the time that so that was me. I was reserving the name Dosh in the App Store for future release. It was very early. I'm talking the first couple of months, right?
Of 2 years ago.
Yeah. And at that stage, you were very early in your thinking around what you're trying to do. And that is something we will live with for the rest of our lives, is that, and you go to them and say, look, we don't promote it for iPad. And I'd say one person out there's got it on their iPad, and then so they're like, well, you can't take it off them. So look, the things you learn along the journey, there's probably plenty of those type of learns. There's a few more to come, I'm sure. But it seems remarkable that we'll have to live with Dosh on the iPad.
Where do people go if they need, they want to find out a little bit more, find your app and so on? What are they searching for?
Yeah, so just head to www.dosh.nz. dosh.nz, no .co, and you'll find there a lot of detail about Dosh today. There's also a cool QR code you can scan, and that will take you to whatever app store you're in, either Apple or Google Play. And there's a lot of information there to have a look. So please jump on and take a look.
Nice and easy. Excellent. Well, thanks. It's been really good to catch up and get the insights on Dosh, and thank you to our show partners, Vodafone, Spark, 2 Degrees, HP, Gorilla Technology, and Deal. And thanks everyone for listening in. We'll look forward to catching up with you on the next episode. So feel free to ping back any feedback or thoughts, and if you do want to try out Dosh, then go and give the app a go. And we'll probably put it up on the show notes if you want to try a link. But
nice one.
good
one. Thanks for having us.
Enjoyed that. Thank
Cheers,
you,
guys.
Cheers.
The New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.